All right, all you devils out there, how you doing? Sam here with you. It's Friday, the 5th of June. So if it's Friday, we're going to look at Bitcoin here. Now we're going to kind of pick up here where we left off here with our daily chart shortly. But before I do that, just kind of a heads up here for you, if you will. Now, most of you perhaps know us, have been subscribers here. And of course, I'm not speaking to members. Members already know this. But for any of you that are following on YouTube, much of the content here that we posted over the last couple of years has been crypto focused, although I do make an effort, and as do some of my senseis, to mix in traditional assets. But what you're going to start to see here on this channel now is more information on our short-term day trading futures tool suite that my partner and I designed, and these are all custom done. You've seen me reference it before here. You can come over here if you wanted to just kind of peruse the options that are available here. Here are the individual custom indicators. These are our premium tools. There's a video that walks you through each of these individually, what they are, how we use them. But then putting it all together is really the objective. So I guess what I'm trying to get to is you're going to start to see more and more videos here that will be focused on our Ninja tool suite. So if you're not interested in futures day trading, they will not be of interest to you. So we're going to put them into a dedicated playlist. But if you're a sub here, you may see a video pop up and it's going to be talking about a day trade in gold or futures or crude or the YM. And it won't be consistent with what you've seen here over the last 2.5 years, right? It's going to look more like this. So this is just a couple of snapshots here. This is gold from this morning. So all of these tools, right, individually detailed here, put together into one template here. So this is today in gold here. For our day trading, we do use Renko bars. So this is all of the tools here. So here we have the Wicked Wave, the Devil's Edge, and the Devil's Pitch, as well as some custom tools that are in here. It would be very consistent with what you're used to seeing here, with the exception that it's so short term that we don't count waves on it, right? I mean, so you can see, here's a clear 3-wave ABC, and you see our algos are all in there as well. But we don't go through the process of counting the waves throughout the course of the day. There's no point to it. The way it would change so often that we don't do it. But certainly if you see an ABC, right, it's not like you wouldn't identify that in your mind's eye and say, okay, potentially a corrective move here followed by this. With a Renko bar, you may not see the 1-2 with a bar size this big, so there's likely a 1-2 in there at a smaller time frame here, or smaller brick size to give you the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we get divergence here. I sent this to members this morning, highlighting the divergence at the low, and then all three of the indicators being in alignment that this was all now clear to buy. So, and we got just a remarkable move off of that one right to the point of control. So it would be consistent with what you've learned here, but just in a different platform, as everything's done in Ninja rather than on TradingView. But the concept would be the same. So here you can see, this is, I often talk about this algorithm that we track, and of course it's in every market. This, as a 14.4 Renko bar here, is approximating a 1-minute chart. So you can see here how many times most people have no idea how many times this algorithm hits its target within the course of a day, down to a 1-minute chart. And again, it's every market. Doesn't matter. It's always the same. So again, this is today, right? It's not like I'm cherry picking. So golden zone, all of them getting targets. Here's a golden zone, gets to target, golden zone, all three. So you've got this one, and this one all getting their target down here. We get a little reaction. Now we get the divergence. All the indicators aligned, straight up it goes, right? So this would appear new to you if you're new to Renko trading or new to this platform. But if I take it over to a 15-minute, this would be much more consistent with what you're used to seeing from us here. So here's just a 15-minute, and we get a swing, we get a perfect retrace to a 50 going up towards the target, and then we've got we have a kind of a custom toolbar here, so we can draw channels as well as median lines at the same time. So you can see this going up and tagging 100% of the initial balance. This is a 65 here, as well as it tags the median line. Right? So you'd be looking for a reaction there. So this, it's not complete. It wouldn't be completely foreign to you. This would look different, but the concepts are all the same. This is just a different way to get to the inner workings of it. And this is a momentum-based approach to day trading. So we're looking for these extended runs, like this sell here coming out of it, and then the buy coming out of here. Now, so if you have any interest in that, come on over here. You take a look. So so over here, you've got the wicked wave, the devil's edge, and the devil's pitch. So if you're like, well, what the hell are those? Well, here's the wicked wave, the devil's pitch. Oh, and then further down here, well, here's initial balance. Here's the divergence indicator that I just showed you in gold. Here's our toolbar where we get to, this is quick access to get to, well, so if I come over here, all of our custom tools, as well as some of the internal tools that are part of Ninja, but our custom tools are all built in there, so you've got quick access to draw fibs. Or the software is drawing all the measured moves for you. But so if you were curious about any of that, then you could come over here and have a look. And of course, we track the market internals, very important for the S&P and the E-mini, or pardon me, the E-mini and the YM, the Dow mini, then our news indicator and our unfilled gap indicator. Here's the devil's edge, here's pivots, and then the Renko suite, if you were interested in, how we're coming up with those Renko brick sizes. It's all the software does it all automatically for you. So you can't see it right here, but it was at the time that I printed this, it was a 14.4, but it moves throughout the course of the day. So as the volatility increases and decreases throughout the course of the day, we have software that will calculate and approximate the 1 minute. So here, when I printed the chart, it was at a 14.4. Now you'll see here it's at a 13.4. So we change it throughout the course of the day as it affects how the indicators fire, when and how they fire. Right, so that's probably everything I can offer to you today. But if you are interested in that, come on over here and have a look-see. And then we do live stream for members. We're doing it Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I've started doing it both a couple hours in the morning, a couple hours in the afternoon as well. So, if we do it, so typically we'll go 10 to noon and then 1:30 to 3:30. There can be periods of time where there's just nothing happening. So we'll come back in the afternoon, and almost always there's some action in the 6 or 7 markets that we trade in the afternoons. All right. So all of that said, all right, that's enough of the promo. Let's get over here. I want to start on this daily chart. Jeez, I went 7 minutes. Sorry. Okay, so I'm kind of back here on this chart here. Now, a lot of people, didn't feel like they got much out of this, but I want you to maybe slow down a little bit and take a look here. We'll get to the Elliott count. Yeah, we have an Elliott count. We'll get there, but there's plenty of information here to extract from this. So really, and I kind of touched on this last week, really what we have here, we're trying to just define support and resistance, and we're getting some very clear, these are channels, but you could think of them as just fat trend lines. So there's a couple of things you notice right off the bat. Well, so obviously we know where resistance is. That's 1, 2, 3 times we've banged our head right here. So it's not too hard to identify where the resistance is. But additionally, I've just kind of highlighted where the longer term support, if we're going to have any sort of a retracement, where we might find it. And note, all I'm doing is I'm taking the high and the low of this little congestion period here, where here's the point of control here as we relate to visible range. Now, but additionally, I've got the wolf, the range expansion tool here. So if I go from the low of the absolute low down here, let me get it right on there, up to the upper edge here. I thought I had them right on it. Up to the upper edge right there. So we're going from the low to the high of the resistance, where I'm using these channels. And I'm creating the channels just using the pivots. Well, you'll note here, this is the 50%, right? And it's just splitting that channel right in half. So I'm going to take this off now. So we can see there was the 50. So if we're going to get if we can't get through this, right, and it's three tries, and we'll visit that in a second. If we're going to start to come down into something along these lines, anywhere in here is clearly going to be where we might anticipate the support to kick in, and that might relate to an Elliott count. Now, nothing says that it couldn't just keep going, right? Of course, right? We're never making that suggestion that we know, well, if it retraces, it must go here, it must go there, right? Market doesn't have to do anything. But if it does, right? So we've got this nice channel here that if this is going to start to weaken and we're going to come down, it's got to get, not just to the edge here, right? So then we just be hitting a trend line. It's going to have to get through the lower edge connecting those two pivots. We got a ways to go, right? So you might see something along these lines. So you might think that this is the 38, the 50, and the 618. So we've got this nice zone down here that might, right? It may be if there's going to be a correction here, we'd need that retrace just to, it's almost like the energy release. Like, so it's like drawing a bow or like pulling a rubber band. Like, so it has to come down here to get the energy to go higher, so that it gets tired. Now, what you can see, there's a couple of things, just clear observations you can see here. Well, note the perfect V bottom that we did here, right? Just perfect, right? Tick to tick. Well, look what we just did here again. Right? I mean, it's hard to miss it, right? We just tick to tick. This is within a couple of ticks. So we've got these back-to-back retracements that have gone all the way, but they don't have legs to keep going. So there's a couple of things you'll note here. Since from our top, once we started, it was a series of lower lows, lower highs, all the way down here. Then we had the trend change. Now we went back into this corrective actions where it's lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, double top, then the big drop off. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Now we come up the other direction, so we get the potential. So we have the trend change here, just as we did here, where we've got higher highs and higher lows, right? But now we've bumped our heads again, right? So it's the same point. So if we put, let's get our cursor on this, so we get right there. It's right around 10.5 and change, right? It's going to vary from exchange to exchange, but there is 10.503 here on Coinbase Pro. Oh, hang on a second, let's take that off. So you look at it and you go, well, okay, so is it just the structure? Well, could be just the structure, right? So clearly, sellers overwhelm here. Right? We've been 1, 2, 3. I mean, it's hard to miss where the resistance is. So let's put that here. What have I got here? Let me get this back to. Let's use just the golden zones. All right. So we've been through this a couple of times, but there's always possibility we've got some new members or new viewers here. All right. So we know from our all-time high to our corrective low here, or to our 18 low, the retrace went right to the golden zone. Right, we've all seen that. All right, so if we do the exact same thing, we take this high and we go to this low. What do we do? All right, so we're looking here. So let me take this one off. All right, so you're looking here and you're going, wonder what's going on there, right? So why is it bumping its head there? Well, now you put it in context. All right, we look at where. Let's get it right on there. Put it in context. Well, now it starts to make sense, right? So we look here and we go, okay, well, I can see structurally where all that resistance is. Again, I'm just using the highs and lows here of this little channel. So I'm using this pivot and this pivot to create the channel, and then we look at the channel. So here, right, you see the break of the 65 here as well as here, but those are not based off of this pivot. That would have been back here, right, where it was a 50. Right, it doesn't get there here before it goes up, goes 50, then goes down and gets target. So we come back here, we put the whole thing together, and you can see why that's. Again, is it the algo, right? Is it structure? I'll let you make your own decision as to what's there. You know what I will tell you, right? There's just no question that software driving that down, right? So that's 65. Well, so golden zone. I should. There's probably even here on a daily, there's probably 15 golden zones I could drag up here, but I've shown them, for the last 2.5 years. If you, at this point here, 2.5 years, if you've been following me and you're not sure what's happening there, I'm not sure I can help you. Well, okay, so that said here, so we can look at that and say, okay, well, clearly there's something happening here. And if you prefer to think of it as just the price structure, feel free. Right? I will beg to differ. I'll tell you exactly what's happening there. Now, all of that said, let's see what else, right? Because is that enough, right? Okay, right, I've got some structure. I've got the golden zone. I always tell you, let's look for more than just one. Well, let's see if I think I've got these saved over here. So let's put, so the fib retracement, if I bring them back, so there you see it, the 65 to the tick. Now note here, this is the 707 and the 786 here as well. We'll look at the 707 framing the upper side of the channel, which is based off of this pivot. So if we're going to go up, right, so now if I hide that fib retracement, you know that this is the 65, this is the 707. So that's why this channel now technically is more significant, because we've got to break both of these. really, right? We've got to break just the price structure, right? So price action, guys, I'm going to be looking at that. You got to get through both of it, but if I put it back on, you can kind of, so I want to just so you can see how it's being framed, right? So here's the 65 after we had our little blow off top here, 65 to the tick. Rejected. Now, if it's going to get through, 707 is next up. But look, it's almost even spacing from the 618 to the 707 to the 786. And of course, you might throw the 887 in there just to be sure we've cleared all the hurdles. But the first thing we have to do has to happen for bulls, right? For this to continue prior to getting rejected down, we've got to break that 65. And we have yet to do it. Just like if this was going to continue, we had to break the 65, right? Which we did not do. So, of course, it's not unreasonable to look at this and go, okay, so Bitcoin likes to go to the golden zone and then fall. Oh shit, right? What do we do here from 14,000 to 4,000? Right, $10,000 swing. So is this right? Are we going? Right, you can't ignore that. That's not what I think is going to happen, but I can't ignore it, right? It's certainly technically there's an algorithm sitting right there that will stay short until it gets there or it gets on the other side of that 65. It's just as simple as that. Now, if they get through, so this doesn't mean that if it gets through, it's off to the moon. If it gets through, it just means that there's no algo resistance from this pivot. Now, there is from this, right? We got to get back here. We got to get through the big, we'd put, same difference, right? You still have to get through this 65 and this 70. It's a long way to go to get up here. But if we get up here, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're out of the danger zone here. It just means that the next time we come back towards a 50, there'll be algorithmic support there on the buy side. So if we were to get through, and let's say we went to the 786, well, look what happens here, right? So if this starts to come back, and again, I don't have this. I'm just kind of doing a little. So look, right, that channel that we drew. So if I pull this off, look where all that cluster is. If we get through. Right. This area here, and again, I'm just drawing based on the market is giving me these channels. That's all. Right. It's the market. I'm just using the pivots the market is giving me. I'm not. There's no rocket science here. I'm just what can I see? What's obvious? Now, there's a few other things here that are adding some technical confluence to this pivot. So let's look at I call it the alternate price projection, but let's look at the APP on there. All right, so I'm taking the low here, swing high, down to this swing low. Now let's pull this off so we can see a little bit better. Well, so do you see, here's the 618. So the length of this swing projected from this pivot low, or that's why I call it the APP, right? So always been the alternate price projection to me. Swing low, swing high to the pivot. What do? We just tagged, we're within a tick. Do you see here? This is the 618. So this pivot, from this pivot, that's 618 of it. So you've got this extra layer of resistance in here from the swing relationships, right? Remember, you'll recall a couple weeks ago, there are no random pivots. This is a 618 from multiple external retracements. Now, look what we're doing, 618, 65, 618, 65, right? Bitcoin is unbelievably responsive at the golden zone, right? It's just all algo driven. You don't have to take my word for it. Just come back here and do the same thing that I'm doing here. You'll find it over and over. And I mean, I think every one of these pivots was a golden zone. All of again, there's probably 25 of them in here on a daily chart. If I took it down to an hourly, I bet I find 100. But nonetheless, right, let's not dwell there. My point being, this is a big, so you could fatten the channel, actually. You say, okay, so this whole area here, if I just the whole thing is just a big, let's see if I can cluster of resistance here, where we've got all this technical confluence. Now add to that this is a channel, but think of it as a fat trend line. So I'm connecting the high and the high here as it hits the 6.5. And then the internal, right, there's this pivot connected with the lower pivot. So I'm catching this pivot here, so I get this nice fat trend line. We got to get on the other side of that. And if we stall here, it's increasing the probability here that if we can't get up and get through this with some conviction, that we might have to come back down here and make a test. I mean, we've gone a long way here without any, this was the only meaningful, there's not a clear, okay, it's correcting so that we can go up and we can finish this, right? So whatever this is, right, if it's going to end up being an impulse, and Right, Elliottians will differ on that, but if it's going to finish as an impulse and it's not finished yet, you're anticipating this, right? So whether it finishes here, at some point, you're anticipating the three-wave correction, right? And it doesn't have to go to the golden zone. It doesn't have to do anything, but you would anticipate the corrective nature of it, right? Again, we can just, if you're a believer in Elliott Wave or not, you would anticipate some sort of a 3 to correct this. How long have we been going here? So from 11th of March, to the 5th of June. Pretty remarkable move, and then yet again, right? So I just remind you, right, that we just did it once here, right? There's one triangle. Now we're doing the exact same thing here, right? Two triangles back to back. I guess you gotta close that. There we go, right? So we got two perfect, within ticks, perfect V's. So see, it kind of leaves you a little bit unsure because, excuse me, we've had these V's before, but when they were happening over here, right, it was always a lower high, right? We're getting the V, there's the V, until we get the trend change. Now here's a V, lower high, V, lower high, V, lower high, V, almost gets back to the high. It's weak, right? Can't get back to the high. So here's a V, get right to the high. You're thinking, oh man, market's showing strength. And then it does yet another V. So you're kind of left here unsure, right? The only thing you can say is that it feels a little. It's been going so long without a correction. It feels like it almost needs it. It just needs it. We got to clear out. Again. We don't got to do anything, but there's a tendency when the market gets tired up here. You just RSI's, we've had a little relief here from the pivot here. We've come back down. We haven't gone below, so we haven't been to below here on a daily. We haven't been below 30 since this low. We got above 70, right, with the pivots up here, but now we have not had the recycle that is often required. So here, the recycle, it's almost, you need it to create the energy to where it can get up and get through those highs. So the market's talking to you here. Now let's take this, right? Again, I would always encourage that you keep a daily somewhere. If you don't like the fat channels, you do something, right? Just lay it out. Look at the structure. What's obvious? Well, certainly the resistance here is pretty obvious, right? However you want to work the geometry. This is how I like to do it. I just want to see this. I want to see, but I know that if we get on the other side of this channel, well, now the correction is likely underway. I know right where I'm going to anticipate to find support. All right, now let's go see if we can put that into Elliott context with all of that highlighted. Let's go look at this count. Now here it's simplified a little bit. So I'm over on Binance now against the dollar tether, where we have it. This is just absolutely remarkable trend line. All-time high, intermediate high from the swing low to the 14K, which was our golden zone. Now look what we're doing here. It's just, that's unbelievable. And I've got these to the tick, right? So I use the little controls so you can get right on the pivot. Those first two are on the pivot, and look what we bump into here as we hit the 65. Now, if you're a technician, you fucking live for that, right? That's just, oh my God, right? That's a technical big O right there. You can't make this shit up, right? So the fact that it's hitting the trend line as it hits the 65 is just absolutely remarkable. Let me go down to a 3-hour here and we'll look at this count. So this has been an unpopular count. I have very, very little support amongst members of my own team here. Because it's so unorthodox. It's just it feels like it's leaning. It needs to correct. It's got this awkward kind of shape here, and we've got all these weird kind of wicks. Now we had what appeared to be I'm always hesitant to go to a triangle until it's done, right? So we had looked at, okay, could be because we had this where was it last Friday we were kind of looking here. We had this, so it looked like, okay, if it was going to come down, reasonable, okay, we could get an E here and up we go. Well, this just blows it out, so you have to rethink the whole thing. So no, can't be a triangle any longer. So what the hell, right? So now it looks like, it does more look like a 3. Now, one thing that I'll do when you're trying to work through the subdivision and like, well, fuck, what is that? Is that a 3? Is it a 5? One thing that I'll do is, if I just to help clarify, I'll take the candles off. Just show me the line chart. Sometimes it just gives you a little more clarity. Let me just open this up a little bit. See what. This looks more like a 5, right? If you really look at it, it looks like this is a 4, 5 down here. So we lose the wicks, right, which kind of distort your view. So if this is, excuse me, if this is the low, maybe I can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into an A. Now you got to dig a 3 out of this. Unclear, right? It looks more like a 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It looks like a 5 here as well. So it's a bit of confusion as we stay, right? So here we are, right? So now you can see it right into the, oh shit, where's my low here? Let's get this. Oh, pardon me. That's because I have let's get the candles back on. All right, so there's the actual low. So now we can see the tag of the 65 as what looks like is a tick short here on Binance as it hit that trend line. So what do we do with this? What is it? Just the overall structure, it looks to me like we're working through a 3. All right, so this would be an ABC, and we would anticipate coming out of this. So this would have to be, gosh darn it, I'm so sorry. So this would have to be at a larger degree. We'd be looking at an A, a B, and a C to come down here. So if that's A, B, C into a C here. Well, here we'll change the color so we don't confuse it. Okay, so if this is an ABC, we'd have an expanded B wave. So it's not the prettiest, it's not ideal, it's not what you really hope for, but what that means is I'm looking for 5 down. So this already looks like 1, 2, 3, but if that were 4, the size of the 4 to the 2 doesn't quite look right. So you're looking, okay, well, if it's not going to come down here and give me some sort of something along these lines so I can get my 5 down here, right? So I need a 5. Somewhere I got to get a 5 to finish this. Well, the last 5 that I can see is right here. So we got to consider the possibility here that we're going to have an unorthodox section here where, again, we can get an Elliott count to fit, but certainly would be unusual. So I'm going to take this little trend line off, and so let's rethink this. So could this be the complete correction, and we've gone 1, 2? Well, then we'd be thinking 1, 2 yet again. I'm not ready to go there yet. Right now, I think what's more probable is we'd have to do it this way. You'd have to put either one would work. So you'd have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you'd be ending up putting the C here to truncate the C, which I'm reluctant to do, right? I think if my primary would be have us coming down deeper here. As an alternate, if this is gonna break higher here, well, we got to have something prepared. And just if that's the case, if this is going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is going to be an impulse, well, this could be A, B's going in. I'm looking for the C here. So it's possible that we're going to get stuck with this. Now, one of the things that I kind of lean into a little bit. In 18, it's in 17 and 18, we were seeing this all the time. It's just the impatience of bulls, right? They don't want to wait. They're not waiting for the C to equal the length of the A. It was just the entire. Well, you go back and look at it, right? You saw the truncated C very consistently. Not triangles. It was always a truncated C. So here, let's put that in yellow here. So if we have to live with that. Well, then this has to, if that's the 3, 4, well, this looks like 1, 2, potentially. Now the 2 may not be done. Looks like maybe 1, 2. Well, let's zoom in there a little bit more and see how we are technically at this pivot. I mean, is it even probable? How high did we go here? If I get right on that pivot, what do we do? I mean, that should surprise 0 people, right to a golden zone. All right, so from this low to this high, boom. Note, not the 618, golden zone. All right, goes now. Look at the confluence here. We go right into the Vegas wave right as we hit the golden zone. reaction. That's all that's happening there. Doesn't mean we couldn't just roll right over. But every time you hit a golden zone here, you can anticipate some sort of reaction. Now, sure, it's not every time, right? Nothing's 100%. But I mean, God, how many times have I shown that? I mean, we were just on the daily. I told you I could probably find 25. Take it down to an hourly, I guarantee I find 100. Well, here's just one of that 100 right here, and I'm on a 3-hour. Boom. Then you look at it from the other side, and you go, wonder where that's headed. Well, we're not there yet. Let's get let's get up. There's the 50. So we're between the 50 and the 618. So if this has got a little more of a kick to go up, which wouldn't surprise me, right? We'll go up and hit that golden zone. Now we're in a box. Now we're just stuck between golden zones. Bitcoin likes to do this, right? Until it figures out what it wants to do, we're just stuck between two golden zones. Very common for Bitcoin to do this. But in terms of how this resolves, tentatively, this would be a backup count, putting the 4 here, then this would be the 1, and this, how do you know, right? You don't know if you're done here because this looks incomplete, right? Because this doesn't look like it's enough, right? It's too abrupt, it's too quick. Look at the depth. If this were to play if this was 1, 2, 3, 4, well, we're not violating the 1 here, but look at the length and the abruptness of the proposed 4 relative to the 2. The look isn't right? So you'd anticipate. Oh, you might. So if this is complete and we're going to correct this, you might anticipate even deeper or double bottom, something here. But you have to prepare. You have to say, okay, well, what if it keeps going? Then what am I calling this? You'd be stuck with this. Okay, well, 1, 2. All right. Well, so this better. So if that's the case, if that's 1, 2, well, you're expecting an impulse out of here. So this better really rock here, which it just doesn't look like we're. Yeah, shit, right? Things change fast, right? Weekends, you never know what to expect. That doesn't look like a great start on an impulse, does it? I mean, it looks like an ABC before we go down again. Now we might need to go down here and test, and then this is getting pushed lower. So again, as I try to remind you guys, all we have is an incomplete picture. We're trying to fill in the spaces as to what it actually could be. Based on how we resolve out of this range, this count could be completely relabeled, right? You go with what's here. And when you see something that tees up just right, that's when you place the trade. When you're unsure, why would you put on a trade if you're unsure as to what you've got? I mean, you never have absolute certainty because that's just not, you're never going to have absolute certainty. You don't expect it. Don't look for it. You don't get it. But you can get high probability. You can get the more probable. So if you're buying it right here, what do you buy? What would be your anticipation as to what's next? Well, if you're buying it, obviously you think it's going to go higher. So you'd be making the assumption that this is a completed impulse and that's a completed correction. Maybe. I mean, it certainly is technical. But you're not going to know until you see how we come off of this. Well, again, we're right back to where we started. The first thing is we've got to get through that 65. We got to go get, well, there's the, I just drew it up, right? So there's the 618, there's the target. Note here, I've got this pivot here that tells me that we're in the clear. So I've got an alarm here. So if we get to this target from this golden zone, okay, now different story. Now I'm thinking, 1, 2, okay, maybe that's the one of the 3. That's not going to be the 3 right here, right? We know it wouldn't be 100%, right? I mean, that's how this algo was discovered. It was the A to B equals C to D that was failing, right? So it was this entire algorithm, right, as it was discovered, right, was when we were not making A to B equals C to D, right? That's a true measured move. This was identified from all the times it was failing. When it got here and we had a trend change. You look back here and go, why? What's happening here? It's supposed to go to the 100. My Trading 101 book told me this is a very common pattern and it's an algorithm. So A to B equals C to D. That was a measured move. Well, when this started failing, something else was happening here. Right? That's when the negatives started to show up, and David Halsey's writing. That's where I first saw it. I've shown this before. Right? It's very close to the way it was taught to me. It was taught to me this way. Right? It would be done here, and then you'd come back, and then it would be the 1272, 1382 window. Well, look where that little box is. right? So here's the 23.6, here's the 272, right? That's how it was taught to me. But then, someone referred me to Halsey's work. I looked at it, started studying it myself, and saw that there was no question there was software that was doing that, because it hits to the tick just way too often. Anyway, I'm digressing here. Shit, 34 minutes. Oh, sorry guys. Okay, so I don't think there's anything to do here in terms of a trade. So if you were trying to just trade off of the golden zone, what do you got there here? So we've gone up. So I mean, it's $500, right? I mean, it's not that you couldn't trade it, but just in terms of the larger context of where we are in the count, this is very unclear. Big pump up, immediately rejected at the 65. Where are we in this count? I think it's, as I've said before, the market is revealing itself slowly here, very slowly, but we have to adapt to what comes next. There's not enough here. I kind of, that thing is annoying. Right, you got to get that off. Okay, we come back here and go, okay. Until we get through this with conviction, there's got to be volume. There's got to be clear. It can't spike up and spike down 5 minutes later. We've got to have a clear, sustained move here to clear out all of this resistance. Can I do? Oh shit! I think I've got them locked. So this is the conundrum for Bitcoin. Right? Until we get through that, we are more vulnerable to coming back to this zone before we get through it than we are to just continue to just nudge a little higher. Now, if it does it, right, I'm not going to be sad about that. But if I had to, let's put it this way: if I was long, and I'll use this as a segue, right? If you're comfortable working with options, this is the kind of area where you might want to hedge any long exposure. Now, I segue there because partly there's just been a lot of demand for this, and partly it's kind of something I've been meaning to do for a long time. We are going to produce an options course for members, and we'll start to promote some of that here on, kind of expose you to it as well here on the channel, which is, I spent the first 7-8 years of my career as an options broker, specializing in futures and currencies. So it's really where I cut my teeth in the industry, and then I owned a brokerage firm, and all we focused on was futures and options. So it's just an area of knowledge that I can bring to the party here. So hopefully there's some, as derivatives expand and we get more, pardon the pun, we get more options to trade options on crypto, the educational content will have more meaning for those of you that are totally crypto focused. But you'll see from us an options course that could be applied to, it could be applied to any asset class, right? You could certainly trade equities with what we would teach, but you'll find my focus will be more on futures options rather than equities options, as that's what I know. That's where I started my career. Okay, there we go. I think that's all I can add here. So if you're interested in, so I would kind of wrap up here, the idea being, if you're interested in any of these tools, if you have an interest in options trading, stay tuned for that. If you like the idea of day trading with some of these custom tools that would be consistent with what we teach you here, all of that in the coming soon category. And we'll just kind of wait and see. I think there's nothing here that's so juicy where you got to just jump on it here. I think this needs more reveal so we can get a little bit more confident in where are we going to be putting this for. Are we putting it lower, or are we going to have to live with this truncated C here, and this is going to go as a 1-2? We should know fairly quickly. I do think that. I don't think we're going to sit here for a month, but yeah, with Bitcoin, right? You never know. Okay, guys, have a great weekend. Thanks for all the time here, and we'll be back to you guys next week.